For thousands of years, gold has been humanity's ultimate symbol of value. It's shiny, rare, and incorruptible. Empires rose and fell on their ability to control it. From ancient temples to central banks, gold has represented trust. But in today's financial system built on numbers and algorithms, where does gold actually fit? In the early 20th century, every major nation linked its currency to gold. 1 ounce equaled a fixed amount of money, a system that created global stability and trust. But the moment this link broke, the entire world economy shifted toward abstraction. In 1971, U.S. President Richard Nixon ended the convertibility of the dollar into gold, known as the Nixon shock. Overnight, the world's monetary system detached from its foundation. The dollar became paper-backed by confidence, not metal. Gold was exiled from global finance but not from power. After 1971, most governments stopped talking about gold. Officially, it was obsolete. Yet, behind the scenes, central banks continued to hoard it. Reports of secret vaults, unverified audits, and quiet transfers began to surface. Why would central banks keep what they claim no longer matters? Since the 1990s, analysts have noticed a disturbing pattern. Global gold reserves don't add up. Where some nations claim to hold thousands of tons, audits often reveal less. In some cases, gold that was lent to other nations or banks was never returned. Billions of dollars in gold quietly vanished, and no one took responsibility. Most modern gold doesn't exist in physical form, it exists on paper. Exchange-traded funds, ETFs, futures, and derivatives claim ownership of the same bars many times over. It's a shell game of confidence, a virtual gold rush. But if everyone demanded physical delivery, the system would collapse overnight. Fort Knox, the most famous gold vault in the world, supposedly houses more than 4,500 tons of U.S. gold. Yet it hasn't undergone a full independent audit in decades. Why? Some economists believe the gold is still there. Others argue it's been leased, swapped, or even sold secretly during financial crises. In 2013, Germany requested the return of 674 tons of its gold stored in New York and Paris, but the process took years and sparked suspicion. Why was it so difficult for a sovereign nation to retrieve its own gold? The answer pointed toward a web of political and financial entanglements. While Western nations downplay gold, China quietly buys. Beijing has built vast reserves, far beyond official numbers, to hedge against the dollar and prepare for a new global order. Gold, in China's eyes, is not nostalgia. It's insurance for the next monetary system. By the 2020s, the world had entered a new paradox. Central banks called gold irrelevant, yet accumulated more of it than at any point in half a century. Gold, once discarded as an outdated relic, was quietly becoming the foundation for what comes next. The question was no longer does gold matter? It was, who still has it and who doesn't? The true architecture of global gold isn't built on skyscrapers or trading floors, it lies deep underground. Beneath New York, London, Zurich, and Paris, heavily guarded vaults hold the metal backbone of nations. These are the cathedrals of monetary faith, where bars of gold lie stacked like sleeping relics of a forgotten empire. But these fortresses are not all public. Many are privately owned or operated by central banks in partnership with commercial institutions, a complex web of secrecy and trust. 200 feet below Manhattan's bustling streets lies the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's Gold Vault, the largest known gold repository in the world. Over 6,000 tons of gold are said to be stored here, belonging to central banks and governments across the globe. Yet, despite its supposed transparency, no one outside a select circle has ever independently verified the full contents. This vault represents not only wealth but power, a symbol of America's financial dominance. London is the silent capital of global gold trading. Beneath the streets of the financial district lies a labyrinth of vaults operated by the Bank of England, HSBC, and JP Morgan. Every day, billions of dollars worth of gold change hands, yet the metal rarely moves. It's traded on paper through complex contracts, perpetuating the illusion of liquidity while the real gold barely shifts an inch. Switzerland refines over 70% of the world's gold supply. Its mountains hide the world's most discreet and secure vaults, managed by private firms whose client lists remain confidential. From dictators to central banks, from hedge funds to royalty, Swiss gold vaults are where the world's secrets are literally buried in metal. France's Banque de France and Italy's Banca d'Italia both hold thousands of tons of gold, remnants of their 20th century empires, yet these holdings are rarely discussed publicly. Some are even stored abroad, a reflection of the enduring financial alliance and dependence on larger Western institutions like the Federal Reserve and Bank of England. Not all vaults belong to governments. In recent years, private vault operators like Brinks Loomis and Viamat have become critical players in global gold storage. They provide non-bank vaulting solutions, anonymous, discreet, and often located in free trade zones. These vaults protect not only wealth, but privacy. In a world where transparency is demanded, they sell the one commodity the elite truly value: secrecy. One of the least understood mechanisms in modern finance is gold leasing. Central banks lend their gold to commercial banks in exchange for interest payments. Those banks then sell or relend the same gold multiple times, creating a shadow circulation system where the same bar is claimed by several parties simultaneously. It's financial alchemy, turning one bar into many promises. Occasionally, audits or investigations reveal that the physical gold supposedly backing these paper systems doesn't exist. Cases in Venezuela, Libya, and Ukraine have highlighted how reserves can be seized, swapped, or vanish entirely in times of political upheaval. Gold, once the anchor of sovereignty, becomes a bargaining chip in global geopolitics. In professional trading, there are two types of gold ownership: allocated and unallocated. Allocated means specific bars are assigned to you, your name, your metal, your claim. Unallocated means you own a share of a giant pool of gold that might not physically exist for every investor. Most of the world's gold today is unallocated, a digital mirage of physical wealth. As we peel back the layers of this hidden architecture, one truth becomes clear: the modern gold system operates on trust, not transparency. Nations claim reserves they haven't seen in decades. Vaults store gold that may be pledged to several owners, and yet the illusion continues, because if the world stops believing, the entire financial structure could collapse overnight. For centuries, gold has been the ultimate hedge against political manipulation. When fiat currencies fall, when regimes collapse, and when sanctions bite, gold remains untouchable. This is why nations like Russia, China, and Iran have steadily increased their reserves, quietly building golden shields against Western financial dominance. Gold isn't just metal, it's geopolitical protection. The United States has long used the dollar as a geopolitical weapon. Through swift bans, sanctions, and financial blacklists, it can isolate nations from the global economy overnight. But every action has a reaction, and the weaponization of the dollar has driven many countries to seek safety in gold. Because gold, unlike dollars, cannot be frozen or deleted by decree. After Western sanctions in 2014 and again in 2022, Russia turned to gold with renewed vigor. The Central Bank of Russia doubled its gold holdings, bypassing the need for U.S. treasuries. In times of isolation, gold became Moscow's lifeline, a liquid asset, immune to digital blockades. This move wasn't just financial, it was strategic, a declaration of independence from the Western financial grid. China plays the long game. For 2 decades it has quietly imported and mined gold on an unprecedented scale, while revealing only partial reserve figures. Beijing's ambition isn't just economic diversification, it's about preparing for a future where global power shifts eastward, and gold once again anchors monetary trust. If the dollar falters, gold could back a new yuan-based system. Ironically, the more sanctions the West imposes, the more demand there is for gold. As nations are pushed out of the dollar system, they turn to gold as a neutral store of value. This paradox means that each political punishment indirectly strengthens gold's relevance and weakens the dollar's monopoly on trust. The Middle East has quietly emerged as a gold hub. Dubai's markets and Turkey's refiners processed hundreds of tons annually, some of it rerouted from sanctioned nations. Gold flows from Africa, Central Asia, and even Russia, melted, rebranded, and re-exported as new supply. It's a geopolitical gray zone where legality blurs under layers of molten metal. European nations face a silent dilemma. They hold vast gold reserves, yet most of it sits abroad, in American or British vaults. If political tensions escalate, could they even access it? Germany once demanded to repatriate its gold from the US, but the process took years, raising uneasy questions about ownership and control. Africa, home to some of the richest gold deposits on Earth, is beginning to reclaim its narrative. Nations like Ghana, Mali, and Zimbabwe are seeking to nationalize their gold resources, keeping value within their borders rather than exporting raw wealth to the West. It's an attempt to rewrite the script of economic dependency 1 ounce at a time. The rise of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa marks the beginning of a new economic axis. Their discussions of a gold-backed currency aren't just symbolic. They're revolutionary. It signals a shift from a unipolar, dollar-dominated world to a multipolar system where gold once again becomes the common denominator of power. Every empire has its currency, and every currency has its moment of reckoning. The politics surrounding gold today echo those before major financial resets in history. If confidence in the global dollar system continues to erode, gold may not just rise, it may redefine what power means in the 21st century. In the past, storing national gold in London or New York seemed safe, even logical. But the 21st century has changed that perception. Financial sanctions, rising geopolitical tensions, and the weaponization of global trade have forced countries to rethink their trust in foreign vaults. The question is no longer who owns the gold, but who controls it. Germany's case is the most famous. After decades of storing 2/3 of its gold in the US, UK, and France, Berlin decided in 2013 to repatriate a large portion, but the process took 7 years, sparking public debate. Why would it take so long to return something supposedly safe? This event reawakened the global conversation on gold sovereignty. Following Germany's example, several European nations quietly began moving their gold back home. The Netherlands repatriated 122 tons. Austria and Hungary made similar moves, citing geopolitical uncertainty. Behind the formal statements was a deeper truth. Trust in the Western custodians was no longer absolute. For decades, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York was the ultimate symbol of safety. But as global politics shifted, nations began asking, could the US freeze or delay access to foreign gold during political conflicts? No one wanted to test that theory. Hence, the silent exodus of gold from Western vaults began quietly but steadily. Venezuela provided a warning to the world. In 2019, Britain refused to release 31 tons of Venezuelan gold stored in London, citing political legitimacy disputes. For other nations, the message was clear. Your gold is only yours until politics says otherwise. It was the moment when gold became not just an asset, but a sovereignty issue. In an age dominated by digital money and instant transfers, gold is slow but real. That reality has regained value in a world of uncertainty. Nations now view physical possession not as old-fashioned, but essential. It's the financial equivalent of keeping your most valuable document in your own safe, not in your neighbor's. Bringing gold home isn't as simple as shipping boxes. It requires secure transport, reinforced vaults, advanced tracking systems, and constant auditing. For some developing nations, this operation costs millions, but it's viewed as a price worth paying for independence. For many nations, repatriating gold isn't just a financial move, it's psychological. Citizens see it as a sign that their country is reclaiming control over its destiny. Governments often announce such actions publicly to reinforce national confidence in economic sovereignty. This global repatriation wave is part of a broader movement, monetary nationalism. It reflects a world where countries no longer blindly trust the global financial system. Instead, they seek autonomy, building internal strength against potential future crises or sanctions. Gold, once sidelined, is now at the heart of this new self. Every gold transfer tells a story of distrust, independence, and preparation. While the headlines focus on digital currencies and tech revolutions, the real signal lies underground in fortified vaults being refilled. This repatriation movement may seem quiet, but its implications are enormous. It signals that nations are preparing for a financial world where trust must be tangible again. Beneath the world's financial capitals lie massive gold vaults in London, New York, Zurich, and Paris. But no one outside a small circle truly knows how much gold is really there. Audits are rare, transparency is selective, and the deeper you look, the murkier it becomes. In an era obsessed with data, the world's most ancient asset remains veiled in secrecy. Central banks often lease gold to bullion banks, a practice that few citizens understand. In simple terms, gold is lent out for interest, often sold and replaced by paper claims. But this means much of the gold in official reserves may not physically exist, it's owed back. The system works only as long as no one demands their gold simultaneously. Bullion banks like JP Morgan, HSBC, and UBS act as intermediaries in the global gold market. They borrow, lend, hedge, and trade gold that often never leaves a vault. To them, gold is not a relic, it's liquidity. But in this world of paper gold contracts, the line between ownership and obligation blurs. Today, the amount of paper gold traded globally through ETFs, derivatives, and futures dwarfs the actual physical gold supply. For every ounce of real gold, there may be dozens of paper claims. It's a modern alchemy, wealth built on promises, not possession. If confidence breaks, the paper empire collapses. Fort Knox, the legendary fortress of America's gold, hasn't been fully audited in decades. Officially, it holds over 4,500 tons of gold. Unofficially, skeptics question whether all that gold is still there, or whether parts have been leased, swapped, or sold long ago. The secrecy fuels one of the most enduring financial mysteries of modern history. London's vault network beneath the Bank of England and private bullion banks stores an estimated 400,000 gold bars, but few outside the system ever see them. The London Bullion Market Association (LBMA) publishes aggregated figures, yet no independent audit has ever verified the total. It's the financial equivalent of a magician's illusion, impressive but unverifiable. In the late 1990s, several Asian nations reported discrepancies in their official gold reserves. Some of these missing tons were never fully explained, quietly written off or reclassified. Insiders believe some of it was used in secret swaps to defend currencies during crises. The mystery remains, buried under diplomatic silence. Not all gold is declared. Some nations, particularly in the East, accumulate gold through unofficial channels, never reporting it to the IMF. This shadow gold strengthens their true reserve position, hidden insurance for future crises. It's a quiet game of accumulation beneath the public eye. Gold's invisibility serves a purpose. By keeping the numbers unclear, the global financial system preserves flexibility and control. Transparency would reveal imbalances. Secrecy sustains confidence. It's not just a financial choice, it's a political one. Eventually, reality catches up. If nations and investors ever demand full delivery of physical gold, the illusion could unravel. When promises exceed metal, History teaches us confidence vanishes faster than gold itself. And perhaps that's the real vanishing act happening beneath the global economy. Every financial illusion has its breaking point. Just as the 1971 gold decoupling reshaped the global economy, the 2020s may mark another turning point. As trust in fiat currencies weakens, the ancient metal gold begins to shimmer again, not as nostalgia, but as necessity. The question is no longer if gold matters, but how it returns. Nations like China, Russia, India, and Turkey are aggressively stockpiling gold. Officially, it's diversification. Unofficially, it's preparation. In a world of sanctions and digital surveillance, gold is the only truly sovereign asset, immune to hacking, freezing, or foreign control. It's a quiet rebellion against financial centralization. For decades, central banks sold off their gold, believing in the supremacy of digital finance. Now, they're buying it back. In 2022 and 2023, central banks purchased more gold than in any year since records began. It's an unspoken confession. Confidence in paper money is no longer absolute. As nations experiment with central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, the question arises: what anchors these new digital systems? Some economists envision a hybrid future, digital money backed partially by gold, combining modern speed with timeless trust. In essence, a digital gold standard. Outside governments, private innovators are digitizing gold ownership through blockchain. Each token represents a fraction of real, vaulted gold, verifiable and transferable in seconds. This merges the physical reliability of gold with the fluidity of digital systems. It's financial evolution, not revolution. Gold is more than metal, it's memory. Through empires and crises, it has symbolized permanence. In a digital world built on abstraction, gold offers something tangible, something human, the reassurance of value you can touch. That's why, even in the 21st century, gold still speaks to our collective psyche. From the fall of Rome to the Great Depression, every financial collapse began with the erosion of trust. Gold, time and again, served as the bridge between chaos and stability. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And right now, that rhyme sounds distinctly metallic. As emerging nations accumulate gold, the global balance of power shifts. For decades, the West controlled monetary influence through the dollar system, but a new gold-backed bloc anchored in Asia could redefine trade, credit, and sovereignty. The next monetary system may not be born in Washington, but in Shanghai or Moscow. Economists quietly discuss what they call Bretton Woods III, a potential reordering of global finance. In this vision, gold regains a partial role in settling imbalances between nations. It wouldn't be a full return to the gold standard, but rather a pragmatic anchor, a stabilizer for a volatile digital age. Gold will not vanish, it will adapt. Hidden for decades beneath layers of paper and code, it's returning to the conversation. Not as a relic, but as the quiet constant of civilization. When trust collapses, humanity always reaches for something real. And in that truth, the vanishing gold begins to shine again.